Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargav, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we talk about an Indian Express investigation that revealed the truth behind a major university in Bihar starting 16 centers of research. We also talk about the latest online ad revenues made by Google and Facebook in India. But first, we take a quick look at Nagaland, where a botched security operation has come to light. In the Mon district of Nagaland, around 13 civilians were killed during a security operation and in the clashes that took place after. Officials have said that this happened allegedly due to a case of mistaken identity. In this segment, Indian Express's Krishn Kaushik joins us to talk about this incident. Krishn, we are recording this on Sunday evening. We still haven't heard a lot about this from authorities, but what all information do we have so far about this horrific incident?
So the first thing to know over here is that nobody till now has given concrete information about what really happened. There was a very brief statement from the army side in the morning. It did not give out any details though. But what we are learning from our sources in the security establishment is that it was a botched up operation in Mon district of Nagaland. So actually this area comes under the area of responsibility of Assam Rifles, which is a paramilitary force, which comes under the administrative control of Home Ministry, but operational control of Defense Ministry. However, this operation was not conducted by the Assam Rifles. It was conducted by certain units of the Indian Army. Nobody has till now confirmed which unit it was. However, people are saying it was the para forces or the special forces of the Indian Army that conducted this operation. Now, at the moment, what we know of, and things are still, developing, we do not know all the details. But what we have learned till now, certain cadre of a particular faction of this NSCN Kaplan group, which is a proscribed militant outfit in Nagaland, they were supposed to be apprehended in this particular area. Army had intelligence, they had laid a cordon, and they were waiting for this particular bolero to come. Around 5:30 in the evening, it was already dark over there. They spotted a similar bolero. They tried to flag it down. However, the sources have claimed the driver tried to speed away, and that's when the soldiers opened fire on it. They had not made sure the identity of the people who were in the vehicle. It is not certain if any of the people inside the vehicle were carrying guns. The standard operating procedure for soldiers in such scenarios is that if they can adequately be certain of threat to them, they can open fire. We are not sure if any of those things had happened till now. However, since the drivers tried to speed away, the soldiers felt it is suspicious and they opened fire. 6 people were killed immediately, 2 were injured. All of them were civilians.
Krishn says that the 2 injured civilians were then taken for medical treatment by the soldiers. Meanwhile, however, the information about this incident started spreading locally. And by around 7:30 in the evening, the locals had come and surrounded the troops over there.
The locals attacked the troops. They were carrying daws, which are like local machetes. They snatched certain weapons from the soldiers. Now, this is what the security establishment people are claiming. During this time, first soldiers tried to fire in the air to try to warn them. It didn't really work. Crossfiring happened. 1 soldier died and about 7 more civilians died in that firing. This happened on Saturday evening. Today, again, things have become slightly worse. The Assam Rifles base in Mon district, about 300 local youth in that area, they went there to protest. It turned slightly violent. They started stone pelting. They set certain parts of that base on fire. They were attacking the soldiers. Now, this is again what the establishment security guys are claiming. They again attacked the soldiers over there. Soldiers fired back. 2 more civilians dead this evening. So clearly the situation is a bit out of control. Home Ministry is sending one of their senior officers to Nagaland tomorrow. That's the Additional Secretary. His name is Piyush Goyal. He's in charge of the Northeast. He's going there tomorrow. He'll take a meeting with all the stakeholders involved, including all the security forces who are present in that area. And things will move on from there.
And what are the kind of reactions we have seen so far from the political establishment?
I mean, we have had statements from Home Minister Amit Shah. We have had statements from the Nagaland Chief Minister and some other leaders from the state as well. They have all, of course, condemned yesterday's incident. And they have promised that justice will be delivered. And anybody who has, let's say, stepped out of line or anybody who's responsible for this kind of a loss of civilian lives will be brought to book. And also, the army has also initiated a code of inquiry to understand what really happened. Any steps will be taken after that, according to the rule of law.
And next we talk about the Mahatma Gandhi Central University in Bihar. The university, which is located in Motihari, is considered a prestigious one. When it came into existence back in 2014, it was touted to be a big deal by the state government. Indian Express's assistant editor Santosh Singh, who reports on Bihar for the paper, tells us about it.
It has 120 teachers, some 1,300 students, including undergraduate students, and 350 scholars. So the research is the main thing about these centers. So people look up to this center with a lot of hope and inspiration. Ki, okay, we have these centers of excellence in our state too.
Now, this university has recently launched as many as 16 centers for research, all in the span of just 12 months, and that too during the pandemic lockdown. Now, keep in mind that opening a center is a major development, because centers are supposed to strengthen disciplinary programs by providing interdisciplinary coursework. They enable research and visits by other research scholars and provide external visibility for the university. But when Indian Express investigated these centers, it found that most of them did not have designated faculty yet, and many of them were opened in just small rooms with no furniture. Santosh Singh, who headed this investigation, tells us what he found out upon visiting the campus.
First, we visited the 3 centers which they opened in October. Just one could be appalled to see that one center that is under School of Education was opened in 10 by 10 kitchen and storeroom. That's it. And then we checked on the another center named after Kasi Prasad Jaiswal, Hindu Adhyan Kendra. It was just 14 feet by 10 feet by room, empty space, no chair, no books, nothing in the name of center. The third center in the newly opened campus, which is called Mahatma Buddha Parishad, it was 8 feet by 10 feet space. So this is where the whole idea came up, to check on the all centers, all 16 centers they opened in last, say, exactly 12 months, one pandemic year of second lockdown.
When Santosh visited 5 other centers that the university had opened in the main campus, he found out that the nameplates were there, but there was nothing else to suggest that it was a center for research. Like the Sustainable Development Center he visited was a 4-room space and was all occupied by senior teachers of various departments of the university.
Another 2 centers, same thing. Or even the nameplate is in just a A4 size printout, Bharat Vidya Kendra. It's written there. Inside, it is occupied by 2 senior teachers, another room by 3 teachers. So when we checked on the coordinators of the centers, they said, okay, we are running it from our respective offices. And finally, we could not find out 5 centers. Those 5 centers are being run from the offices of their respective coordinators. They have appointed coordinators for each of the 16 centers, but there is no devoted faculty, not even basic infrastructure. We could not understand the hurry why it was opened.
These supposed centers are dedicated to subjects ranging from Ambedkar and Gandhi to yoga and cybersecurity. Now, opening a center doesn't just require faculty and infrastructure. Santosh says that for doing so, the university first has to seek permission from the University Grants Commission.
Because it gets 100% finance from the center, for that they have to seek prior approval from UGC, or else they would not get fund. So in this case, they have not followed the due process. A center of excellence should have full faculty, of course, a coordinator, a big space, a lab, so that it should look, okay, it's a center. And first and foremost, they should follow the entire process, routing it through the 2 lawmaking bodies of the university, that is Academic Council and Executive Council. In case of 2 centers, one center named after B.R. Ambedkar, second is Cyber Security Center, they have followed the rules. For the rest 14 centers they opened, in case of 5, they have brought it before Academic Council. But it is nothing. It's something like it goes to Lok Sabha, but it is not passed in the Rajya Sabha. But it was never brought before the Executive Council. And for the rest 9 centers, they have neither put it before Academic Council nor before Executive Council.
Santosh explains that opening a center for research requires amendments in the statutes of the Central University. This would involve the academic council and the executive council, and it will require the President of India to ratify it. But this is only the first part.
The second process is promulgation of ordinance. They make ordinance. They have to declare the scope and objective of each center. And again, academic council and executive council will come into the picture. It will again go to the president. President will ratify it. And the final process is Gazette notification. You have to publicize it. Then all these processes are completed. You have a legitimate center in place. But in the case of 14 centers, they have not followed the due process.
Santosh first came to know about this whole thing through a set of pictures a source had sent to him.
That showed one center being opened in a kitchen and a store. Chhatrapati Shivaji Lokniti Shiksha Kendra. We just flabbergasted, just wanted to know what it is all about. When we started investigating more, then we learned that, okay, they have opened the center without following all the due process. Then we tried to visit the place. We visited Motihari twice and we checked on each and every center. What they have, whether they have faculty, whether they have room. So just in case of 3 or 4, they have some designated space. And for the rest of them, for that matter, a cyber security center. It's open the lab of that department. Every computer department would have a devoted lab. You would not know whether it's a lab or a center. So it doesn't have a devoted space. They are saying, okay, they do not have a space. They are renting the place. Still, they have 4 academic campuses. They can provide for it. Even the present campus is 25-acre land, the main center. They can choose to open the center over there. So this excuse, I think, cannot be taken.
And Santosh, what is the reason do you think they ended up making up these centers and doing this thing?
I don't know. I think it's more about the publicity mongering. The current VC, Sanjeev Kumar Sharma, I completed his term in February. He is an acting VC, and as per rules, acting VC cannot take policy decision. That is one. Just to see his name in the plaque that he opened these centers and it will add to his CV. That could be one personal reason. But if you talk about objectively, there was no haste in. All the idea is good, but there should not be haste in opening these centers. They should have brought it before the academic council, executive council. And I was surprised when we spoke to OSD administration, Rajiv Kumar, when he asked why you didn't bring it before executive council. Then, okay, we will bring it before executive council. It is under process. These things would be done. Then I asked, you first open the center, then you will complete the process. You should have done before. Then I casually parried my question. We sent 3 emails to the VC, the proctor, and CC to the OSD administration, and WhatsApp text, SMSs, phone calls. Finally, eventually, we got one person, that is OSD administration, but he didn't come up with very satisfactory answer.
And since your story has come out, how has the government reacted to this?
Officially, they have not done anything to suggest that something has been done, but there has been flutter. Even before the story, the Chancellor of the University, Mahesh Sharma, spoke to us, and he said that he red flagged about such violation in the past as well by the current dispensation. The head of the institute, we red flagged it. He said he has written to the President of India and his letters had been sent to MHRD, but there has been no action on the part of. So he was kind of dismayed at the state of things.
And in the end, we talk about the tech giants Google and Facebook. A recent analysis done by the Indian Express has revealed that Facebook India and Google India together cornered 80% of the latest digital advertising revenues in the country, a total of over 23,000 crore rupees. This figure raises eyebrows, especially considering the accusation media companies have been making against giant tech companies of driving revenues away from them. In this segment, Indian Express's Aashish Aryan, who did this analysis, joins us. Aashish, could you first encapsulate the accusations that media companies have made against tech giants regarding ad revenue and the whole debate around it?
So, Sashank, like you rightly pointed out, that media companies, the legacy media companies particularly, they have often accused Facebook and Google, who are internet companies, that while the content is not as such generated by them, the content is generated by legacy media companies. The revenue that is generated from these content based on the advertisement that is shown to the users of these media companies or the readers who come to their websites. So the revenue that is generated, that is often taken by Facebook and Google, a majority of it, in fact. If you see, the debate centers around that while we have the content and we are the ones who are putting in that kind of investment, only because you have that infrastructure which earns from the ads and then is able to serve very personalized ads to people who visit news websites or even other shopping websites. Therefore, you take the revenue and a major portion of it without sharing any of it with us. So, with these kind of figures that have come to the light, those accusations or those allegations that are made by media companies also start to be seen in a new and different light altogether.
Right, and now you analyze the ad revenues that Google and Facebook have made in the last financial year. How much more online ad revenue do they make compared to the traditional media organizations?
Right. So, Sashank, if we talk just about the combined ad revenues of Google and Facebook, which are the two largest internet companies, so to say, and social media conglomerates. So, combined for FY21, their gross ad revenues was 23,213 crore. So, the ad revenues generated by all of these companies put together is just 8,396 crores. Whereas, if you see the ad revenues of just Facebook and Google, like we talked about, it is 23,213 crores. So you can see that it's nearly three times the ad revenues of the top 10 traditional media companies that are listed in India. And these include your likes of Z Entertainment Enterprises and Sun TV Networks and the TV Today Network, 18 Group, and all these channels, all these media houses that have a very wide spectrum of newspapers and radio FMs and websites and TV channels. All their ad revenues put together is just 8,396 crore. Now, while one can say that a lot of it has suffered due to the recent pandemic and the spending of people or the spending of advertisers has gone down quite a bit, but it does not take away the fact that digital advertising as such, and that particularly done and managed by Facebook and Google, it has taken away a lion's share of ad revenue that is being generated by other companies.
And what attempts have we seen in the past to sort of change this existing system?
So while in India, it's still very much at the debate level as such, and it's being talked about, there are countries where Facebook and Googles of the world, they have entered into partnerships with various media organizations, and that they would be paying for the news that is hosted on their platform, or they would be paying when the users that they redirect come to these news organizations. In some countries like Australia, the government has, through legislations, mandated that these companies share a part of their revenue with the news organizations or these smaller organizations. So the debate also steers to that when it comes to smaller news organizations which are focused to a particular area or a particular group, while Facebook and Google do direct more people or redirect more people to these news websites, these smaller news websites or these smaller news organizations are not able to make that much of a revenue, which is, again, like we discussed, taken away in majority by Facebook and Googles of the world. So countries like Australia, they have mandated that this way, if Facebook and Google are forced to share their revenues with these smaller news websites also, it will help bring in a semblance of balance and allow these smaller news websites or smaller news organizations to expand or to provide better coverage of the area that they are operating in.
And without this sort of arrangement, and I'm thinking from a news organization's point of view, it would be hard to run online operations without a fair share of revenue coming their way, right?
Absolutely, Shashank. So, as we know that being in the news organization space, media houses have been complaining that while the attention span of the reader is very less and it's ever decreasing, they have a very small window where they can capture the reader's attention. And despite all the revenue models that are there, it is very difficult for news organizations to make the reader pay for premium news. That's been a debate that's been going on, and there are various revenue models, like we know, that are being experimented on. And I mean, we are on that side of debate where we can say that people tend to forget that it takes a lot of investment to produce that news or produce that content, and there are actual costs involved.
And companies like Facebook and Google, it's very easy for them to just redirect people and take away the lion's share of revenue, which thankfully with some legislations in some countries, they have to share some of these revenues with the smaller news organizations. Therefore, it is important in that debate to remember that these smaller news organizations will get that additional sort of boost in their revenues, so that they are able to function better and they are able to sustain, or they are able to run for longer periods of time.
You were listening to Three Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.